Hi, thanks for tuning in to Talk About here on Shaw TV North Island. We've got another interesting guest for you. It's Helen Whittaker, president of the Campbell River Senior Centre. Helen, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure to be here.
How long have you been president?
Less than a month.
Less than
a
week.
month. No, I was elected to the board in January, to the new board, and took the position of vice president.
Yes.
And when circumstances change amongst seniors, it just evolved that the president stepped down, and I've assumed the new role.
There was a health issue, I gather.
There was a health issue.
Yeah.
And of course, that's what we need to anticipate, right? Which is why we need to work as a team,
Well, that's a fair question because I happen to be a member of the Senior Centre too.
Good.
How could you tell?
Good.
And there's been some fractionalism in there.
There has indeed. But I think any new organization has that. And when I look back over the history of organizational development, I know there's 3 stages to it, and I think they call it forming, storming, and norming. So first of all, you want to form an organization. Then you fight like crazy for 5 years to find out what the best fit for where you want to go is, and then you normalize. And I think that's pretty much where we are. Yeah. I'm glad I remembered that piece of social data.
I was going to jump in and say you're having a senior's moment. Now, Helen actually has a very interesting history in seniors affairs. Let's tell us a bit about where you worked.
My personal history?
Yes.
Sure, I do have a history, an interest, and quite frankly, even at this age, a passion. I was a nurse for over 40 years. Most of my practice was in Alberta. And for several years in my 40s, I was the provincial coordinator for the Healthy Aging program.
Is it in Alberta?
That was in Alberta. And that's when we began to realize, as the boomers were coming through middle age, they were going to have a huge effect on everything, as they have had on every stage. And they wanted to be prepared, and they wanted to promote healthy aging. So I used to stand around in my 40s on 4-inch high heels, dangly earrings, and talk to people in their 70s and 80s about how to get old, you know? It was, when I think back on now, I'm just horrified by it, right? You know? However, as I mentioned to you earlier, John, I'm now the recipient of my own good advice, and I'm finding it a little harder to walk the talk than I anticipated. My home is on a bus route, right? I know how to take the bus. I know about alternate transportation. I know about all of those things. I'm finding letting go of things a little bit harder than I knew about it intellectually, and now I'm actually experiencing it, and so that's a little bit different. And then the last 20 years of my working life were a really interesting combination. I was an emergency nurse at a very busy hospital, and I worked there 0.6, and I was a palliative care nurse in the home.
And where is this?
In Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay.
In Edmonton, Alberta, yeah.
How did you get to Campbell River?
Well, I had a friend who wanted to live at the sea, and she's a nurse as well, and we were looking for a hospital in which she could work. And as we traveled up and down the island, I came down the Jubilee Freeway, and I turned onto Dogwood, and I saw the scenery, and I said, I have seen nowhere on God's good green earth as beautiful as this.
Well, welcome to
There you go. So as well as being passionate about healthy aging, I'm quite passionate about how spectacularly beautiful this city is,
How long have you been active in the Senior Centre?
I've been active since the beginning. I had 2 years of inactivity, but my name is on the original charter. I'll tell you, John, as an emergency nurse in the 90s in Edmonton, we began to experience the inability to provide emergency care because we had a lot of seniors on the stretchers who were there for non-emergent reasons.
Yes.
And we actually learned from Victoria, British Columbia, how important socialization was to the health of seniors, and how socialization and activities that emerged from it contributed to them being able to make better choices about how to access it. So So we learned from that data. That was well-researched data.
And I'm going to interject here, I'm sorry, but this also is where the government saves money by keeping seniors out of hospitals.
No question. Absolutely no question about it. What happens is we seniors tend to be part of the high-end users of the healthcare system. So the better we manage our health, which is, we don't expect perfect health. What we want to do is maximize the health we have, right? And also know how to really access the healthcare system in the way that serves us as individuals, but also serves the system. So we knew that having a senior center as a disseminator of that kind of information and as a center that offered you the opportunity to socialize and then become active, I really believed in that. So when I came here, I didn't come here looking for a senior center. I tend to be more of an independent. But as we get older and frailer, that socialization issue becomes more and more important. So let's say I moved here and I'm a hiker and a kayaker and all the things that Campbell River has to offer. And let's say I lose my partner, I'm in the grieving process for a year. I no longer kayak alone. I no longer dance alone.
And because you're depressed, you don't eat properly.
Yeah, I might even go to tea and toast. If I hadn't been even active or aware of a senior center, I may not have the opportunity to find the bridge club, the stamp club, the less active club. So I can give you an example of what happened in this town. We did a petition, and that's easy enough to put your name on anything, right? So we had 700 signatures. So I took the 700 signatures home, and I phoned them.
All 700?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, but here's what I learned. First of all, it wasn't seniors signing the petition.
Huh.
It was 40 and 50-year-olds whose parents had retreated into their homes and were suffering from what the British call chronic loneliness.
Huh.
So here's two stories that I think are really pertinent. My mom, said one lady, my mom was so active in the square dancing, she loved it. Loved it. She broke her ankle, she lost her activity, and she lost her social group.
Yeah.
So wonderful group, but not part of the general spectrum of seniors activity, not under an umbrella, I guess is what I'm saying, right?
And so what was there for her?
Well, there are things for her, but because her social life and her active life had been a single focus activity, she wasn't aware of the cross-referencing, and so she'd simply retreated. Yeah. The other one was someone who said, my dad loved to fish. He was part of the fishing group. He could no longer get down to the pier. He's only involved in the church group. They didn't talk fishing. He, too, needed, a broader spectrum from which to choose. Yeah. So anyways, those were the examples. So I thought, okay, I have a little bit of history and background in this. I'll get involved in the senior center.
Yeah. Now, was that the pre-existing one in the Campbell River Common Mall?
There was no senior center in town at all, and so we met in the original group met, at local coffee shops and decided that they would like to pursue this. I was part of the group that was looking to get our status as a not-for-profit and get ourselves established as a society. Yeah. And then we used to meet once a week. And then we moved to the Ironwood Common, and our hours expanded, our activities expanded, and our numbers expanded.
That was a great space in there.
That was a great space. It was, yes, it was. And we outgrew that space. It was interesting. We really outgrew that space. Yeah. So,
And for the benefit of viewers who might not be familiar with it, the senior center is now part-time at the Sportsplex, part-time at the community center, and city council is now studying, sort of waving like a weather vane, are we going to put it attached to the the community center or across the street in a standalone?
Well,
what's your perspective on all that?
I'll tell you that I need to communicate this to the seniors as well as everyone else. In order to have a fully functioning senior center, you need to have a partnership with your municipality, your municipal government. Yeah. There is not a single senior center in all of Vancouver Island, and I think British Columbia, although I haven't researched it all, that hasn't got a partnership
Oh,
of
okay.
some form.
Yeah, I was going to say there's senior centers Sayward has a senior
Senior
center,
center, indeed.
but Campbell River doesn't.
But Campbell River doesn't. But that doesn't mean we don't have good programs. We have
Yes.
great programs.
Yes.
We have great, the city runs the over 50s plus active living.
Yeah.
Great programs. We have square dancing, we have fishing, we have those,
Yeah.
but they're single interest programs.
Yeah.
And that's, as I explained earlier, they don't give you the crossover referencing, right?
And actually, Campbell River has a relatively high proportion of seniors in the population, do they not?
We do.
What is it?
Well, it's two
heard-
function. One, as you know, we're an aging demographic nationally, right? British Columbia has a much higher percentage of seniors, but Campbell River lost our working age group when the mill closed.
Yeah.
So we had a diminishment of the population between 25 and 55. So right now we are 16 point something percent of the population, which is higher than the national average. Yeah. Yeah, significantly higher. So because that's the demographic of the city, we need to address it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In order to be a healthy community, you need your high-end users of healthcare services to be healthy.
Now, the local papers have been full of a war of words and letters to the editors.
Right.
Do you care to comment on that?
Well, I did send some statistics in because I felt if the conversation was going to take place in the newspaper, it would be a good idea for people with strong opinions to have accurate information,
Some
right?
facts?
Sometimes,
Some
yeah,
facts?
There's a novel idea.
Politics.
But, yes, yes. So certainly our senior center is fragmented at the moment. Not only are we at the Sportsplex and running some programs at the community center, but we have off-site programs. Yoga, which is a big program, is at another building. The men playing pool is at another building. The women doing line, that kind of thing. So, yeah, they're all part of the senior center, but we're fragmented. So we're looking for centralization, right? And we're looking to resume our original mission. So we formed a little political action committee. And we did talk to everybody and talk to all our elected officials. And not just because it's politically astute to be on side. I think these are people who get it, that it is important for the community to have one. And so I know there's a feasibility study coming in soon. And so we're waiting to hear the results of the feasibility study.
Do you have an opinion yet on whether it should be a standalone across the street or an attachment to the existing community center?
I don't have an opinion. And
Does the board have, or most of the members?
No, in fact, I got direction from the board last week. We are prepared to support whatever initiative comes up. That's not our area of expertise, and we really want to work with whatever feasible solution comes up. We want to work with it and support it. Our long-term goal, John, the 10 to 15-year goal, would be to have a standalone seniors building that is specific for that. Many communities have that. And many of our sister communities not very far away have exactly that. So that would be a 10 to 15-year goal. We need an interim solution, which is a space where we gather geographically in one area and manage our programs. And we want to start to work with the city, really, truly, to see what we can do about the over 50s active living program and the seniors program and see how they may or may not merge, you know? So that's something we want to explore as well.
One of the letters, I think it was, had a poignant little thing in there about when it was at the Campbell River Common, some of the low-income seniors living in the area would go there for an affordable lunch, and they'd go home with a sandwich.
Right. I can definitely speak to that.
And that was, frankly, keeping people alive.
Actually, it's not how the original group that formed a senior center envisioned it.
No.
But you know, when it evolves and you find yourself doing exactly that, that's perfect. And you know what? It wasn't a decision. I'll tell you exactly how it happened. We had a kitchen, we had a lunch program, because people who eat together, as you know, people who eat together care about one another, right? So the kitchen ladies, not part of the board, not part of the decision makers, the kitchen ladies began to realize that there were people coming in for lots of meals. And I went in there one day and I said, wow, what smells so good? And they said, oh, well, we've started to cook a big meal at noon hour instead of soup and sandwiches because we've begun to realize that we have people come in at 9:30 and have a muffin. They have their big meal, pork roast, scalloped potatoes, and a salad, right, at a reasonable price. And then they buy a sandwich and a cup of soup and they go home for supper.
And the sandwich is what, $1?
Yeah. So we began to realize that the women themselves, not the board.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not
do.
not that.
Yeah.
It
wasn't top down.
It wasn't top down. It was what they
bottom up.
call now organic, and it was wonderful to see that that's what had happened.
Yeah.
And although that wasn't the original intent of a senior center, if that's how it evolved in Campbell River, well then, that's what we're about, right?
Yeah.
Or at least that's what we'd like to reclaim.
Yeah.
We would like to reclaim that role, and I would hope that we'd only need to have that role for 20 or 30 years, and then in 20, 30 years' time, hopefully seniors will be more self-sufficient, right?
Yeah.
But at the moment, we need to,
Okay, I'm going to sort of switch rivers here a bit. The North Island Hospitals project is, of course, underway.
Yes.
We're building a new hospital, and then there's going to be a 40-bed, not sure what they're calling it.
Alternative level of care.
Yeah. And there was a debate about how adequate or inadequate that might be, the model. And at a recent meeting, I think it was Tom Sparrow, but it could have been somebody else, but they pointed out the number of people in the Campbell River Hospital right now who should be alternative care. I think
Correct.
that's what
That
they
is
call
correct.
it.
Yeah.
There's something like, was it 35 or 40 people?
I don't remember the numbers, but I'm very, very familiar with this scenario.
Yeah.
In
Whether
fact,
it's
in my
30
working
or
life,
40.
I was a bed coordinator in that particular busy hospital.
Yeah.
And so when you have an active treatment hospital like Campbell River, and I want to compliment some of their acute care programs because their elective surgeries, they have a wonderful program. I have a friend who had surgery on Tuesday and was home on Thursday, and has made a wonderful recovery, mobility, and everything. So my compliments to that's what the purpose of an acute care hospital is.
We've got really good people here.
We have really good people here,
The
but when
nurses
you
and the
don't have a
doctors,
place,
but the facility
Exactly.
isn't matching.
although, you know what, you need to say to the people who built that hospital 50 years ago, they did a good job.
And I'm in favor of keeping it
And are you, John?
instead of crashing it.
And keeping it as an alternative level of care?
Adapt it,
Adapt it?
even if it's not earthquake proof.
Well, I have strong opinions, but I came here only 8 years ago, and I have really strong opinions about building a facility that will serve the population 50 years from now, just like this one did,
Oh,
right?
we need a new hospital. Just don't tear the old one down. It's better than 95% of the hospitals in the world.
Although, you know, we may be flogging a dead equine here. You know,
Yes. Equine. Well, the mayor was sitting in your chair and he said he's not going to give them a demolition permit.
I see. Well, you know, be that as it may, I'm not without a strong opinion on it, but I'm prepared to work with where we're going.
Yeah.
Sometimes what looks like a liability right now turns out to be an asset in 20 years, you know, because so I need to defer to people who know more. But we need alternative level of care beds, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's one of the big issues.
It is.
They believe the 95-bed hospital that we're going to get is going to be too small. But if you take, this is what Tom Sparrow was saying, if you take the 35 alternative care people out of there, then the hospital's
will
fine.
function as so I guess it's important to understand acute care means people who need physicians, nurses, surgery, that kind of thing, and are going to be processed through the facility. So alternative level of care has 2 or 3 layers to it. There's people who can manage their activities of daily living but are, say, in middle stage dementia. They still can tend to their personal hygiene, but you know what I'm saying is.
What was that?
Yeah, we joke about it, but you know what? It's coming to all of us, right? So
No,
we need to
not
be
me.
ready. Yeah. So
I'm gonna be
that's
in
what the
forever.
baby boomers are going to be pushing is the need to deal with these health issues, and they should not be in acute care hospitals. They are alternate. They should be an alternative level of care, and yeah.
Yeah.
So right now we have many patients there, and I wanted to say too, 95 beds is a very generous allotment for the capture area, the population in its catchment area. So when you look at what the recommendations are for, say, a catchment area of so many 100,000 people, you want so many active care beds.
Yeah.
But so what we really need is alternative level care beds and end of life beds. We need those too.
Yeah. Now, is that palliative? Is that the
Well,
euphemism? Or?
in Campbell River, it's the Hospice Society that tends to that. I come from a province where it's part of the healthcare system, and in British Columbia, the hospice system, which is a charitable organization, not-for-profit organization, provides that service. So I'm hoping that will happen too.
Okay, not far from here on Dogwood, there's a building that there was a lot full of brambles, and there was a house that was a bit run down. And it's a sign as you drive by, CR Hospice.
Right.
Is that going to be?
I believe they've moved to a new, I can't speak, but I believe they've moved to a new home, and they are hopeful. They want to advocate for the people of Campbell River to make sure we have end-of-life beds. And you know, if I was talking to the government, you can talk about the quality of living and the quality of dying, and you can talk about all of that. But really, an end-of-life bed is far less expensive to manage, right, than an acute care bed. So you want to make sure that your expensive real estate, which is in the acute care thing, is being utilized by the people who need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least, you know, that's a little bit of my background talking here.
Seniors Week was June 1st to 7th.
Right.
And Seniors Day was recently, I think.
You know, I think it was
where's the
June
news
the
release
1st?
I got here? There it is. Statement from Seniors Critic on National Seniors Day was October 1st, 2013. Boy, how did I get that?
Oh, Ricky, we're only half a
How
year
did
out.
I get
John,
that
what's
in this
half a
file?
year between seniors?
But do you think, like, do seniors need a week? Or should it be all seniors year?
Well,
year round?
of course it should be. I think that's a politically wise function. That's the emerging demographic. That's what the government's going to have to speak to. I think it's the reality of what they're dealing with. I'd certainly, not only have I adopted daughter of Campbell River, but of British Columbia. And I'm hoping that British Columbia, that has a high percentage of seniors, is going to both lead the way as they struggle, because I'm hoping that when they talk to the federal government, they're going to say, we have a high percentage of higher end users, and we want to be the ones that learn how to keep seniors healthy. We want to be able to show you data that we're able to do it. So I saw those political initiatives, and some of them are excellent. We'll have to wait and see what the outcome is.
I wonder if BC's transfer payments from Ottawa reflect the higher proportion
That's
of
the
seniors.
piece that thanks, John. That's the piece I didn't say. That's what I would hope they were. You know what? I do not know if they already advocate for that or not. I would just hope that they would. Yeah. So I'm out of my field here, but I'm hoping that that's what's. Yeah.
And then the voter turnout issue is amazing. The young people didn't turn out to vote in the last provincial election, and I have some theories about that. But seniors, they have a very high turnout ratio for elections. Why?
Yeah. Well, we're retired, and we think our opinions are important, and maybe nobody's listening to them anymore. I don't know. I vote because I was raised in a household where it was a responsibility.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
One of the things when we gather together and express opinions, about what's going on locally, whether they're informed or not, right? But I will tell you, the Senior Centre has conducted forums for all the municipal elections. We've had the candidates come and speak. There's been high turnout, high interest, whether it was the mayoralty candidates or the councillor candidates. So we've had really good turnout.
Yeah.
People, they're interested. Perhaps maybe as we get older, we are more interested in what's closer to us, about something we can do something about.
Yeah.
Rather than being, do you know what I mean?
Well, I think seniors still vote for sort of like programs for youth.
I
the
totally
seniors
agree.
care about society.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. If if I was talking to the group with whom I spend a lot of time and said, you know, what does this city need? They'd say, we need job promotion. We need companies that are going to employ between 20 and 200 people. We need
Food self-sufficiency.
We need that, right? We need that. So they would say, they would know that that's what the city needs. I mean, of course we know that.
So just because seniors vote in high proportion doesn't mean that they're all venal. It's more like they're altruistic. They want the world to work.
Partly, yes, absolutely, yeah.
So what's the Senior Centre going to be doing in the next year, or under the next 11 months of your presidency?
It's 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, counting. We are going to pursue our primary goals. One, we want to provide a place for people to gather. I don't know if you know, but on May the 23rd, we had something called a fundraiser, no D. So we had the Sportsplex. The city gave us an evening at the Sportsplex, and we provided dinner, entertainment, dancing, you know, all of those things that we enjoy for 220, 30 people. We bought the dinner. There was many people in the community who contributed, and I won't list them today because I am sending them personal thank yous. And it was a wonderful community support that supplied dinner and entertainment and all of those things. So we had a wonderful time. So we're going to try and maintain our membership, maintain our forward momentum, continue to speak with the city about how best to have a good outcome for seniors, whether it is a standalone 10 years from now, a standalone 2 years from now. Those are the kind of things. So those are the goals.
How much does it cost to belong to the Senior Centre?
$15 a year. And we even give you there's even $1 off if you buy early. You know, like, I mean, that's how we do things, right? Yeah, and that's okay.
I knew the answer to that
I
question.
knew you do. That's why we're both laughing, John.
It's for a while I was at the Christian radio station across this hall from the Senior Centre, and I used to enjoy going in there. The camaraderie is really quite nice.
Yes. We had a wonderful space there. The men had the pool tables right in the window. The women were playing, they had a craft group, and there was puzzles. You could hang out or not. You could engage or not. It's interesting that what happens is, I'll tell you the difference. Do you want to know the difference between the city?
We're running out of time.
Oh, well, then that's...
We're not out yet. But anyway, where was I going to go with? There was one. The penetration level, like you've got a few hundred members now, is it 500?
I think, no, we are down to 350, but at our peak we were close to 700.
So I'm doing the math. If you've got 16% of 3,500, there's about 2,000 seniors in town?
There, depending on your definition of a senior. Right now there are 6,000 people over 65.
Yeah.
There are, and by the way, we do have 10 members over 90 and are active with us.
Yeah, my grandmother was 104 and still active.
Yes.
I think we got to go, but so there's lots of room for seniors to join the Senior Centre. Get active now and help it get a new permanent facility, and that would be a good thing. So, Helen Whittaker, thank you very much for coming in. Best wishes in your tenure.
Thank you, John.
And thank you for all the good work you do.
Yeah.
Now, thank yous too to the volunteers, and thank you to Shaw, and thank you for viewers. We're available on YouTube, Shaw TV North Island. You can see this show again, plus you can see all the other great shows we've done here on Talk About. So thanks for watching, and tune in again.